service has been, I believe, one of my vasanas. I don't know if it's a vasana, but it's just been feels like a calling. But I understood what Hester was saying. I feel like a lot of times it's for me. Well, there's only one of us. So whatever I'm doing for myself as well. I don't want to see, I realize that I see in duality because I see somebody out there needing or suffering, and I have a want, a desire to help however I can. So, and that's with people and animals. So, it's kind of been an issue at some point. But I want to do it in a centered, loving, open, I guess, connected, from truth. So I guess that was my question.
Yeah, yeah. I
Does
feel
that
your
make
question. I
sense?
hear your question. It does. It does. I get a strong feeling actually with you, see, that you actually already know the answer here. I get a strong feeling, it sounds like it has
Mm.
caused it. You said it's caused issues for you. This, so I think, and you mentioned balance. I think you mentioned balance.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm happy to talk about it with you, but I have a strong sense you already know what you have to do with regards to this. You already can, there's a part of you, at least, that
Mhm.
can see where ego is at play and where love is at play and the difference between these. You can, maybe you can see how any traumas that you yourself have endured are sort of being tugged at and plucked at when you help others,
Mm.
and that how that can lead to the lack of balance.
It's I think I've gone the other way. I've kind of pulled back quite a bit just because of health issues and things that have happened. So, um, yeah. So,
So you know.
uh-huh.
Or do you know, or am I wrong? I don't know.
Well, yes and no. I think it's a matter of being still and before I act, and getting a guidance. I get caught up in the mind.
Yeah, okay then. So the first thing I want to say is that I'm not I'm not telling anybody not to do good works.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm speaking to you, Steve, but I'm speaking to everyone
Hmm.
here as well. So good works are good,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
If you are helping other people, that's great. And at the end of the day, if you're helping someone because of an ego, because, maybe you're trying to make yourself feel better,
Hmm.
you're trying to create a sense of self, you're
Hmm.
trying to be that amazing person who helps other people, these ego reasons, look, it's not the worst thing in the world to help
Hmm.
people, even if it's out of ego. There are much worse things you could be doing. So it's not that big a deal, really, even if you're helping people just for yourself, because you're helping people, right? You're alleviating suffering. And you can do a lot, and a lot of people do a lot of charity work because of their ego,
Hmm.
and they do a lot of good. They help a lot of people,
Hmm.
right? So let's just acknowledge that. Now, the best the idea that there are other people is actually an illusion.
Hmm. Hmm.
While we're in that illusion of thinking that we're an individual and we're surrounded by individuals, it's right to help other people and do things for others. Right, okay.
Hmm.
But if we want to come out of that illusion,
Hmm.
which is the most beneficial thing we could do for ourselves and for the
Mhm.
so-called others,
Mhm.
then we need a change of focus. The focus stops being about helping others and doing good in the world, and it starts to be about, what am I? Who am I? Yeah. This
Mhm.
I, the true I, is divinity, is absolute, unfathomable love and joy and happiness. And it's happiness, we can say poetically, metaphorically, it's happiness for everyone. So when you discover yourself, you are actually liberating everyone on the planet all at once. So this is the best thing for the whole of humanity, is for everyone to live in eternal joy and peace and love. So when you're liberated, you bring everyone with you. This means we've got to let go of running around in a compulsive way, running
Mhm.
around trying to help others. As I said, that doesn't mean you don't help anyone.
Mhm.
It just means that compulsiveness, the need
Mhm.
to help, which is a neurotic, compulsive need I'm
Mhm.
talking about, the neurotic, compulsive need to help someone else, we have to go past that, because that is actually our own unresolved pain,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
When you start to resolve your own pain, the desire to do good is still there. It's
Mhm.
innate. The desire to help others is a part of what it is to be human. But it doesn't become compulsive
Mhm.
and emotional and painful. It comes from a different place.
Mhm.
So in the same way, I often say to people who come to this meeting here, I say, your aim is not to help anyone else on the call. Yeah. You're not here to teach others
Mhm.
and to help anyone else. Doesn't mean you shouldn't help anyone else. I'm not saying, hey, I don't want to see anyone helping anyone else here. I don't want to see anyone being nice to anyone else. If I see anyone being nice, I'm going to be very angry. No, it's not like that. It's like, that's not the primary goal of why we come together. Yeah. The primary goal, it's self-centered in a way.
Mhm.
And I know that
Mhm.
word has a kind of a double meaning in the context, because we're about coming towards the self. But it's self-centered in that it's about you attaining liberation, attaining self-knowledge. In the same way I said, I think it was the last satsang on Thursday, I said, yeah, I don't encourage people to share and spread the teachings, you know. In fact, it's a warning sign. If you go into a group, a teaching group, and they say, look, spend 50% of your time trying to realize yourself, but the other 50% of the time you need to be spreading the word. I mean, often it's more like it becomes 5% of the time doing your own work, and then 95% of the time spreading the word about the group and the message and the teacher. I don't encourage that at all. I mean, look, if naturally it comes up in conversation that you come here and you want to share what I'm doing here, that's fine. But that's not an emphasis. That's not the focus at all. It's about you realizing yourself. Goodness will naturally flow from that, you'll see.
Mhm.
But we're not evangelical here. We're not trying to spread the truth to others. We just need to realize it ourselves.
Yeah.
And then you'll realize everyone already has this understanding. It's a bit like the verse that Hester read. Where is it? 345, wasn't it? Those who have clearly seen the truth, that God shines as the life of life, in every life behold, even in the meanest worm despised by others, the love's presence of the Supreme. There's another, the verse before this one, which I'll read. Um, yes, actually, this will be quite interesting. The verse before, 344, goes like this: Those who have sought the Lord within the living shrine, the heart, and seen him there with vision clear, will also recognize him as he sports this in this vast, wondrous temple of the world.
Mhm.
Meaning, when you go within, you see the divine within. The whole world is transformed into God. So why you don't? Then there's no need to help anyone else because everything's God. You don't need to. God doesn't need any help. Now, if I go one verse before again, we'll see an even deeper teaching. Let's see, verse 343. 343. Those who, diving deep within, have found the self. I'll start again. Those who, deeping. I'll start again. Those who, diving deep within, have found the self, have nothing else to know. And why? Because they have gone themselves beyond all forms and are awareness without form. Form means objects. So you've gone beyond all objects and you've become awareness without objects. It means without others, without any diversity, without any multiplicity, without any duality. So in liberation, not only is there no suffering, but you see no suffering. There's no perception of suffering in yourself or others at all. If it was just your own suffering, but you still saw suffering others, that is still suffering because we naturally will suffer when we see others suffer. That's what compassion means. Compassion means to suffer with. Passion is a Latin word, means suffering. And means with. Compassion means to suffer with. When you see someone else suffering, you will suffer with them, depending on how sensitive you are. When you see an animal, when you see an ant suffer, you suffer. There's a part of you that suffers. You may pretend you don't, or you may have grown thick-skinned, so you don't feel the suffering anymore. But part of you suffers. Whenever you see any suffering, whether it's another person, whether it's another animal, whether it's a plant, whether it's the earth, the environment, this suffering that we inflict upon our planet in a variety of ways, the damage, we all suffer as a result. You see a tree, beautiful tree being chopped down, you suffer. You see an animal being treated badly. You see an animal being eaten when it doesn't need to be. You suffer if you have sensitivity. Even if you don't have sensitivity, a part of you suffers. So to see suffering is to suffer. In liberation, we don't even see suffering. How peculiar. The mind cannot understand this. And we realize there's never been any suffering. There's only God.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to the mind. Philosophically, on the intellectual level, it doesn't make sense. But with self-realization, through self-inquiry, we answer the question that cannot be answered by the mind. The old question, age-old question, which is, if God is so good and wonderful, why did he create all this suffering? If there is a God and God is all loving, why did he create this horrible, in some ways disgusting world in terms of what happens in this world? All the horrible, terrible things, atrocious things that have happened. Why would a loving God do this? We come to realize he never did any of this stuff. But it's unacceptable in a way to most minds to say this. But this is the reality we can discover through silence. Bhagwan's teaching was in silence, which means self-inquiry. If you actually read what he says, when other people say his teachings were in silence, but what did he say? He says, my teachings are in silence. Self-inquiry is the way to silence. So did I fill in the missing gaps a bit there for you, Sue? Or is it still unclear what I was saying at the beginning?
You filled it in, and I'm just realizing that, my mind is still in duality, and in the relative world, there still are things going on, but I understand what you're saying. So I'll just keep going back to the stillness and the self-inquiry, and
Have a think about this as well. Have a
yeah.
think about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a bit of
Mm-hmm.
time to sink in, I think, isn't
Mm-hmm.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Have a think and then
That's
come back
great.
to me, you know? And let me say something else then.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Let me say something else that may help. You see, this universe, this so-called world around us, is actually a creation of our own mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it acts and it appears according to our own thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So if we see ourselves as a victim, I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
that's what you see yourself as, by the way, Sue. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying, for example, if we see ourselves as a victim, then we will see victims all around us. The
Mm-hmm.
world will become a world of victims and perpetrators.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I know recently, I sort of bumped into them, and they said to me, they'll basically, I won't say the exact language they used. They're basically saying how this world is awful. And this person was telling me how they're trying to teach their children how awful this world is. He was trying to tell me, look, children have got to know this, he was saying. He was like, they've got to know this world is absolutely awful. And the most you can do is make it slightly less awful.
Mm-hmm.
That's what his view was. Very bitter, jaded. And this person's been through a lot of hardship recently, which I was aware of. But if you have this kind of mindset, which has become bitter and cynical, meaning bitter and cynical, not seeing any goodness anywhere, then this will project around you. Not just color the way you see the world, not just distort the way you see the world, but actually literally create
Mm-hmm.
a bitter, twisted world. If we change our own vision, our own feeling, our own energy, that energy will literally
Mm-hmm.
change the world. It's not just a matter of changing the filter through which we see things. It's literally changing that which we're actually seeing. So by carrying on in this paradigm of trying to help others, noble as it is and noble as it may seem, we're actually also subtly
Mm-hmm.
perpetuating the illusion that there is a world that needs our help. Okay, and in that world, we can be both the hero that saves the day, right? You can be if you're trying to save the world and help, even if it's just your community, let's say you're trying to save a few people here and there, you can become the hero, can't you? That saves the world, that saves the people, that saves the day. And you can also become the failure
Mm-hmm.
that fails to save the day, that fails to save the world. Yeah. So you can be the hero and you can be the failure. And neither of these are true. In truth, you're not a hero in this way. and you're not a failure. And you can never be that, either of those things.
Mhm.
What you are is beyond these sorts of stories. So notice your own thinking, your own belief system, and see if we can go beyond that. See if we can realize that everything here is spirit. Everything here has an intelligence to it. And if we connect with that, we transform our entire experience, literally. So, to put it differently, through learning to be happy in yourself, you literally create happiness all around you. If we come from a place of lack, we will create lack all around us, which we then try and go outwards to remedy.
Mhm.
But if we go inwards and just create fullness or discover the fullness within ourselves, genuinely, we create fullness all around us. And this is a virtuous cycle, a virtuous circle where we go further and further in to find more happiness. But we find the world transforming around us, becoming better and better. But we care less and less about that. We go in and inwards and inwards more, be happier, happier. And the byproduct is we save the world, but the intention is to save ourselves. Is that helpful to put it that way around as well?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.